Oh, we're rolling? Our reaction? Is this it? Let's do it. It doesn't need an introduction. Sanity, 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 sanity. Ha, ha, sanity, 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 sanity. Nah, nah, no. Sanity, sanity. Sanity says, sanity says, sanity says, God bless. Sanity says, these are the clothes and this is how you dress. Sanity says, hey, this is what you do. Sanity says, take this pill for the foot. Sanity, 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 ha, ha. Sanity, 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 not, no. There's a war against sanity. The war against sanity is a battle for peace. I hate to use the words war and battle because they imply violence. Anti-violence, pro-peace, man. Now, I'll tell you how far capitalism reaches, because when I was growing up with Gillette Burma shave, best a man could get, there was this whole situation where they were tricking men to shave their face. They said, oh, that hair's not supposed to be there. That's a caveman look. You might look from you're another foreign country, and you might not want that on your face anymore. So they tricked us. And we started shaving our faces. Oh, God, we got pretty. We got as pretty as girls. Then all of a sudden they said, well, we have those boys shaving we have them shaving their faces. And that's a darling look. Let's start moving below the neck. And I've seen boys at the beach. And you look at this area where manhood's supposed to wiggle. And they got nothing there. They go to their friends because it's hard to reach. And they say, hey, buddy, get your razor out. Shine it up. How many razors are on it? 5, 6? Run them up and down my chest. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to dribble. And I'm going to drool into my chest. And I just want you to run that razor up and down. Get me squizzle as a woman, man. I want to feel like a baby. That's the way the guys do it now. So I want to teach you, I want to not teach because teach is the wrong word. I want to talk about something and you can take it as you leave it. I have one promise to you. My promise is that I promise to remain insane. Scout's honor, Eagle Scout. Look up the year. Name's Dr. Benjamin Dasse. Moniker, I go by Dr. Big Nose. They call me in the streets, and some people just call me, get out of the way, you piece of garbage. Those are called normal people. Let me tell you something about normal people, and I love them. God, I love them. I just don't like their trap because I have to look at it every day, and they throw up gates in front of you, and they say, you get trapped too, man. Get in my trap with me. Do a little dance for me. Stand on the side of my zip-doop freeway. I'll give you a nickel if you look sad enough, and that saddens me. Let's talk about what I'm sad about. I'm sad about the way that fruit's usually eaten. This is a tree. This is the top of the tree. These are the branches. These are the roots. This is what we call the trunk. Let's call it a tree because we have to call it something. Let's not start splitting the world apart because that's the opposite of my philosophy. This is the line that separates the earth from the sky. Blur it. If I could, I'd blur it all because that's the ultimate kind of point I'm trying to get to. And it's simple. This is how we started. Because you got to feel it. You're not going to learn it. You can't learn anything. Words get in the way of any kind of comprehension of reality. So we're going to try to skip the words, ironically enough, using words, or at least sounds, some variation of. Now here's fruit on this tree. Again, another part of the tree. Again, this fruit will become a part of you, so you're part of the tree, you're part of the earth, because the tree's part of the earth. This is the ultimate point we're getting to. Let me show you how fruit's usually eaten. It's plucked off usually by a man who comes across a river. Another false delineation. They call him a Mexican. They call him an American. And they say, shoot a bullet at him, shoot a bullet at him. His lifestyle's scary. His lifestyle's fancy. You want it. You're scared. This is what we call cyclism of fear and intimidation. So they get the M down here. He picks the fruit and he takes it to one of the traps, a grocery store, a place where you go to get food that's not good. And then somebody buys it. By then, it's not ripe anymore. They eat it. It goes through their body and turns to the earth. Now, I want to talk about a more simple system of eating fruit where you can deny the whole thing. The thing about fruit trees that's kind of special, and a little bit, it's one of the trick traps they use to keep you trapped and not thinking you're trapped. Is that if you happen to have the luck to buy yourself a plot of land, you're not stuck in New York City or Banana, Alabama, you're going to have yourself a nice plot of land. You're going to have trees in it. And now, see, I mostly spend my time along San Pedro and 4th Street in Los Angeles. It's called Skid Row. You can get away with skidding down there. When you got a nose like this, you don't get to strut. You got to skid down that road. So that's where I live. No trees there, but every once in a while I'll get myself a bus ticket. I'll tie that bandana tight so no one can see the fear. And I creep into these parts of the areas. They call them Pasadena, and they have other special names that connotate wealth. You get in there, And what you got to do, it's good to do it in the AM hour. Good to eat fruit in the sunlight so you can see which one's shining brightest. It's the way God has evolved to show you color, to tell you what's good. And by God, I don't mean big beard staring down at you and discerning your actions. I mean something vague. We want to get vague. And I'd write the word, but I don't like letters. So, what you're going to do is you're going to step straight up to this tree here. This is you. And you're going to open your mouth wide as you can get. I want to see what you had for dinner. Unless you brushed your teeth, and if you brushed your teeth, I want to smell what kind of brand of toothpaste you use. Mint or cinnamon or whichever one the commercials have taught you is the freshest, bestest flavor now. So what I want you to do is step up to this tree, and I don't mean to sound condescending because the thing is I understand there's a trick trap, and I'm in trick traps. And all I'm trying to say is, can we acknowledge the trick traps and try to take them off? Get them out. It's like words instead of sounds. People have lost their way. They think about words instead of sounds. And so I'm losing it. I'm losing my train of thought. I am insane. Now, I promise to you, like I said before, to remain insane. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to comb through this big tangle of sound and find your words, because they're easy to hang on, and you can find sentences and other teacherly, professorly elements of it, and then you can discern the meaning later. So what I want you to do now is I want you to step up to this tree now. I want you to take out your knife. And when I talk about knives, I don't like to talk about more than 2-3 inches as far as knives is concerned. And the reason is that once you get a knife that's long, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to violence. People can smell it. They can feel the metal in your pocket. They can see the shape, and they can say, that's a guy that if I want to have one of these dark tangos with, he's ready to dance. So don't do that. I don't want your knife much bigger than this, and I don't want you keeping it in the fighting pocket. Because if you're going to live on the streets, and in order to kind of get to any kind of what we're talking about here, you're going to end up streetwise. You're going to get in skirmishes because there's a lot of bad energy. The street people, they have great souls, but they are losing their sanity. They're trying to look for truth, and they end up in insanity, because the way that works, I'll get to after this. See, I got myself back. Is you want to take out your knife, it shouldn't be much longer than this, right? I want you to unfold it. And then I want you to sweep up to this tree. Let's do an illusion of a fruit. Same as on the cereal box. Same as on the grocery store, and that's how they get you in there, huh? I've seen in some communities they paint it on there to call you forward. So what you're going to do is you're going to step up to this fruit. Now, common knowledge says you pluck that fruit and you peel it, and this is a dastardly way of eating fruit, and denies you your connection to whatever this is, whatever this is, whatever this is, getting away from words. You're going to step up to that tree, and I want you to just slice it. I want you to slice that red thing on the tree, and the peel is going to come back, and you're going to expose the beautiful, juicy fruit, and it's going to be dripping. It's going to be oozing with the truth. It's going to be oozing with actual sensation. And I want you to step up to this tree. And I just want you to maybe put the knife away at this point, because the owners of this tree are probably peeking out the window right now. They've dialed 1-1, and they're on the last one, shaking, especially if you've got a deformity. I want you to step up to this fruit, and I want you to start. I just want you to get in there. Get in that fruit and let the juices run down your tongue. And let them run into your body, still not plucking, leaving the fruit on the tree. And I want you to let the juices go into you, and your veins look just like the roots of a tree. And all of a sudden, you're connected to the tree. And here's the tree. You're the exact same shape. If you put plastic in your veins and burnt away the flesh, you'd be a tree. So you're a tree. It's a tree. All of a sudden, it's connected to the earth, it's connected to the sky, since, as we discussed, this is a superficial line. And all of a sudden, you're connected to the universe at large. And you're just sucking on that juice, letting it flow down into you. You're getting stronger. And this little life that you're living is gonna be good. For this moment, you are the fruit. The fruit is you. That line is gone. And that's what we're talking about here. Get rid of the line. I want to say something about truth and insanity, and why truth eludes the homeless character. Homeless, I don't like that word because it connotates that this is a kind of... Let's not fuss around with words because it's a losing battle. The dictionary is really an imperialist tool that teaches you that your sounds should be labeled and separated and have one meaning, and all of a sudden you can't just reach out to your brother. You can't just say to your brother, you have to say, how are you doing today? And they say, I'm doing okay. And then what you say back is, okay, cool, or whatever you say, it doesn't mean anything. You've stopped meaning anything. Reality, people say, how do you feel? And if you're in a trick trap like the rest of society, you should say, ha! I don't feel good. And they should scream back in your face. You shouldn't even have to say the words. That yelling should say it all. And what I'm trying to say here is that here's sanity. I'm going to draw some lines of my own. They draw lines all day. They say, this is my property, don't step across it. Here's the Rio Grande. You don't like them. Remember them? They do a lot for us. I say us. And when I say us, I mean humanity. Tricks. So here's truth, connotated by that symbol, which I just invented. Watch, 20 years from now, remember this. This could mean truth somewhere. And if this ever means truth somewhere, then you know people got caught in a brand new trick trap called mine. Because that doesn't mean truth. And neither does this. This is easier to read, ain't it? So here's the truth. When you're on the street, you're trying to do your own thing. You don't want to engage in capitalism because you've learned and you've kind of understood that capitalism is a losing game with a stacked deck, and it's silly, especially as coming from medicine. One of the reasons that I quit medicine and went to South America to try to look for the cave cures is that I realized that capitalism and healthcare couldn't really coexist, so I had to find some sort of way around this. And what I'm saying is that this is true. Okay, maybe I went too far. Here's the sounds of the street. We'll make it look like one of them roads. We're going to talk about cars in a little bit, and I'm going to write that here so we can remember. This is what it looks like when the light bounces off of it. Comes in a variety of colors, a variety of names. Some are sexier than others, but you need to consult your commercials if you want that, because I don't carry that knowledge around in here, not enough room. Here's the truth. Here's the sounds of the city. Honking horns, stray cats running over your face when you're trying to sleep, trying to get to the one purity that the modern man has left called dream. They interrupt the sleep, and this is where the poor street people, be they engaged in drugly activities, thuggish activities, or what have you. Now, I'm going to give them a couple names because they don't deserve to be called such a horrible, simple, simplistic thing. We got a guy named Joe here. Joe, let's call him Joe F. We got a guy named Joe E. Let's got a guy named Paul. And let's see another one C. And then another one C. So these are the people, and they're looking and they're interested in this. And sometimes they get lost in a thing that looks like this. And you've been lost there too, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Put a door in it, all of a sudden it's a dirty magazine store. Coincidence? This is a bottle, by the way. So they're looking at truth. They're trying to get the truth. But the problem is there's all this residue from the traps. When these people build a building, or when they make a special toy for a child to look at, gaze at, try to re-gauge what a fruit looks like, they leave all this kind of mess, dirt behind. These people are living in it. And it makes a sound. There's a sound of honking horns. And all of a sudden you're trying to get the truth, but you can't because there's honking horns. Here's truth, here's you, and here's the honking horns. So you're just trying to get to that, and all of a sudden you're being denied that possibility. Let's move on to something called cars. Remember this? Do you see this shape? Do you see why I didn't underline it? Because we got to talk about real quick. There's certain, not rules, because rules are obviously there's certain different manifestations I'm interested in. I feel like to understand school thought, you go in a straight line. And I'm talking about going like this, maybe even like this, coming around. We're thinking in loops. All of a sudden you start to think in a loop. You think about that fruit you ate on the tree. You think about everything else. You start to go in circles. You start to weave it all together. And all of a sudden that's when you realize it's all woven together. You go like this. This is borders. These are lines. Put words in between. Put countries in between. Put people in between. Because the biggest fallacy of thought is that you end at the tip of your fingers, tip of your toes. Reality, you reach as far as the sky can ski. You go as far as you see. Now, I know I trip over my words from time to time. I want to talk about how the dictionary is an imperialist tool before we get to another word called cars. Think about a dictionary. So this is a place where you classify. This is a place of drawing the line. Hence, I put the words in between. Okay? I want to say a little something about God, is that you should keep God in your pocket, you should keep him in your hand. Back to pockets, when I just tapped my breast, I came to a very disturbing conclusion. That's that my fighting pocket contains a knife. Now, this is a mistake I made. This is what I call convenience. If these pockets didn't exist, these pockets exist for weapons, they exist for small change, they exist for money, weapons of capitalism, etc. Extend the word as far as you want, because you're the word doctor, not I. I'm not a dictionary. I'm a doctor. And all of a sudden I have a knife in my pocket. Maybe I'm not a doctor. Maybe I'm not a fixer of life, a giver of life, as more pretentious specimens would like you to believe. But maybe I am a taker of life. Maybe I'll take my life. Maybe I want to hold this to my own throat and do nasty things on the inside, or somebody else's. Because I invited that into my life by making this knife so accessible. You know what I say to this knife? I say, I'm not responsible enough for this knife, and I pitch it to the side. If I pick that up later, it's because I've learned my lesson through some kind of system of thought, internal or external. But that's going to stay right there, gleaming, glinting, reminding me of the sweet fruit that I'm missing out on because I was too irresponsible to have it. And you think about that, and you think about that simple mistake I made and the punishment I just meted or down on myself. And then you think about nuclear rockets, the knife of the sky, and you think about the melting flesh knife of the sky, and the type of, those are men who wear neckties. Have you ever seen anything as ridiculous as a necktie? Do you know what a necktie is? Do you know where the necktie started? Because I've done some internal research on this. I've done a little bit of time travel in my dreams, and I don't mean that literally. I'm not a buffoon. What I mean is I look back into the ancestry through my DNA, and it's not in any kind of literal way. So you can't start saying the tails are skipping, that the scales are tipping, and he is actually insane. I made a promise to you to stay insane, and now you're using that against me. You see what I'm doing? I just drew a line between me and you. I didn't do it on purpose to teach you a lesson. I did it because I'm fallible, because I'm a human being, and that's why I put my knife in my pocket. And that's why when I was a doctor, I went into the hospital snug in a necktie, right up to the Adam's apple, until my little Adam's apple, that means I'm a man, clicked over my special little tie that meant I was a man, and my voice was raised several octaves so they could see that I would do their bidding. What medicine do you want me to inject into a child today? I didn't do it like that. I wasn't one of those sell the medicine doctors, but I did do certain rules. I followed certain protocols. I made mistakes, and I did it all in a necktie. And on the holiday, there was a Hanukkah on it, and there was a Christmas tree on it, and there was all the celebrations of all the separations between people, because we don't share holidays. The only place these holidays come together is on Dr. Dasse's special Christmas time necktie. What a treat! Do you see how open he is, how delightful? And I did it in a necktie, a tool of oppression. What a necktie means, when a man walks into a factory in a necktie, and everyone is hunched over their machines, turning cranks, and sparks are shooting in their face, and there's any chance they could lose the actual tools of communicating reality, their fingers, the only parts of your body that stick off and don't make you feel like you're made of stone, like you're denied these classifications of gas, vapor, and a liquid, because everything's a liquid if it's anything. It's not solid, you're not solid. And these people are just wrenched over these machines, turning cranks so that you can have a watch come Christmas on the necktie. And at Christmas time, the owner of the factory would walk in. He would pretend that he was looking, and his cigar was flaming because he couldn't have a cigarette. He had to show the people that even his smokables were bigger and better than they were. And he'd walk in with his necktie, all these fools hunched over. And let me answer something. If he was to go up to one of those machines and try to hem his old cog or gear for one of these special watches they're going to sell come Christmas time, his tie would pull him into the machine, and it would pull his face down into the gears, and we'd see some horrible, god-awful capitalist violence, which happens through his people, but through weariness, through being worked too hard. For him, it would be through his necktie. So you have to ask yourself, why would he wear a necktie? Because when he goes in there, in that necktie, everyone knows he doesn't go near the machines. He's got the dangler. He's not going to get in there. He's not going to interact with his actual tools of production. because he's a king capitalist. He is up top. He doesn't interact with anything except for piles of money and the occasional prostitute and his weary wife when he pets her bottom. That's all he does. There's butter that's ingested. There's very fancy desserts that are eaten. In fact, the dessert, let's say that they're making chocolate bars in this factory, and the guy's pressing the wrench down just so that these things can be crimped into these brightly colored little packages that should remind you of the fruit you should be eating for free, and instead you're going in and throwing your capitalist change up on the counter, and they're scooping it up and scooting you this candy bar, and the candy bar literally looks like a turd. This thing was literally just mashed out by a machine, and you gobble it up because it's got nuts inside. Again, similar to your common average turd. And there you are munching this sugar-infused turd. Meanwhile, King Capitalist is in his castle. And what do they eat for dessert? They take an ostrich egg and they pop out the yolk and they put it in a bowl. Keep rolling, keep rolling, keep rolling. We're talking about desserts. Get that camera picture on me. Get the camera drinking the light off my face. Do it! I'm just acting like a baby for trying to make everybody calm down. It's not a big situation. So he's got his ostrich egg and he plucks out the yolk and puts it in another bowl and calls Rita, his maid, into the room. Rita, bring the special mixing ingredients. I'm having my ostrich egg dessert. She brings in long locust-colored vanilla beans flown in from Cairo in sugar crystals that were carried in on a train from the island of Humanjan. And then they mix it up in a mortar and they push it into the egg, and he sits there on his balcony staring out at the twinkling city that only from a distance is beautiful. Only King Capitalist on his hill can enjoy the beauty of the sparkles, because those sparkles are bonfires and trash cans where bony street folk named CJFJE are trying to warm themselves. He's up there, takes a little bit of the egg white, gets a little bit of that special yolk, puts it on his tongue. Meanwhile, he's growing fatter and fatter and richer. And we're just watching it. We're in the machine turning the crank, and the candy bar is pulled out by the robot, and everyone's ponying up their dough for these special candy bars. Don't do that. Take your knife if you're responsible enough to have one. Odds are, if you hold yourself to strict standards, you're not. But you can always pick up a branch. You can always, you remember this fruit? Look at it. That's what we call a ghost. This fruit's still here. You can still walk up to it and spear it and get in there. Get in there and get it, because they can't keep you from this. And when they call the cops, unless you're wanted for the massacre of all your constituents like I am, and you have to walk around in the streets with a bandana in your face, it smells more and more like a baby's diaper in the sweltering sun as the minutes pass, and it becomes wet with your spit and spizzle and sweat. If you're lucky enough to be able to just walk in, hey, oh, hey, man, I haven't seen you for a while. I'm your neighbor. Well, I didn't recognize you because you grew a mustache. They're in style. Yes, I've seen lots of them in the marketplace. Well, I was listening to this guy talk about fruit and had a different way to eat fruit. Did he have a big nose? Yes. He slammed the door in your face. Say, no, his nose is regular size. He was a regular guy like you and me. They use chalk anymore. They use a whiteboard. It doesn't squeak, and the kids learn faster, and they learn in colors, and they don't learn diddly squat. This is what we call noise. I think that sometimes when I talk, the way that the words ricochet and echo, and they don't create an electrical echo, positive energy, and this is the only type of echo I have any respect for anymore. A child is an echo of a mom. A bus is an echo of a plane, and a car is an echo of a bus. A bicycle is not an echo of a car. A lot of people lose that there. I'll tell you why. There's no combustion in a bike. We skip next to motorcycle, then we go to moped, then we go to a wind-up toy in a kid's house, and all of a sudden his fingers are gasoline. And you wonder if a child's fingers can operate a motor and they're gasoline, how long is it before the U.S. storm troops are kicking your door down and cutting your... We got mass sanity as a form of insanity. I want to give it a second. Right now, get away. So, All of a sudden, you know what that grizzling, rolling, engine-burning gasoline sound reminds me of? It's CARS cars. We're gonna come on back, we're gonna hop all back to the ghost of the car. Here she is. Here she is. And so, let me just say one thing about cars real quick. Now, when you make the decision to buy a car, you're getting in line. There's a road, right? There's a road, it's got curbs, those are lines, and lines down the middle of the street. Now, when you get in your car, all of a sudden, you have to realize that when you strap your arms to something, that thing becomes an extension of you, especially in this modern age. I have a friend, he has a telephone that he carries in his pocket, carries it in his fighting pocket, no pun intended. And he's got that phone to his ear, and this has got a charger that's plugged into the car, and then he's got an iPod, and he's picking out his favorite song by Joni Mitchell to try to calm his nerves in the gray gold city, and he's clicking on it saying, once was there paradise, now it's a parking lot, and then all of a sudden he's got a kid in the back seat. There's wires dangling from the iPod, from the phone, there's probably, and then he's got his hand up hanging on some kind of strap, and his son's back there squirting silly string, and that's winding itself through the cords. And all of a sudden he's in a web and he's crashing his car because he's going 25 miles over the speed limit because he's trying to get to a pie eating contest. You know, there's people who die going to the store to pick up a sack of M&Ms. Somebody in their family goes, you know, you did a good job with the grocery list, but you forgot the M&Ms. And then they have to get in this goddamn big hulking beast, this godforsaken creation called an Electra or a Sportra or a Wendigo, and they're just barreling towards the market thinking about these M&Ms, and all of a sudden, there's a cat that runs by or some kind of living creature that should exist there that can easily coexist, and you spiral off and you're in a car accident. Speed devastates families. Speed destroys families. Speed will devastate your brother. It will kill your sister. And meanwhile, people are speeding down the street. And you want to know why? Because when they get in this big, long line, they're reminded of the lines that are imposed upon them, that they pay $35,000 for the electric BMW, and all of a sudden they're still in line. And they see two lights. They're red as Eve's apple nipple or situation, and they're staring at these red lights. But they don't see apples, and they don't see nipples, and they don't see cherries blossoming. They see the eyes of the devil reflected back into them because their perception, the story they're telling themselves about the driver of that expensive electric car. If they're in a crappy truck, they say, where the hell did this bum come from? If they're in a BMW, they say, forget this, Prince. I'm going to honk my horn at him. And you honk your horn, and if your car's an extension of you, as I said earlier, without any conjecture, if you are an extension of your car, honking your horn at your brother in traffic when you don't absolutely have to. It's one thing if he's running at you with his fists out and you go, whoa, because that's what's going on. But if you're in a line at a grocery store, I'm talking about life without inside being inside your car. I'm talking about life outside the car. If you're in a grocery store and some guy's going slow in front of you, you don't go, ah! And that's what that's tantamount to, honking your horn at your brother because you're trying to fit 5 seconds on the M&M task that your supposed family sent you on because they were brainwashed by two not very funny cartoon characters exchanging banter on an electric box. And that's supposed to somehow guide you to some kind of flavor satisfaction, and you remember where that chocolate comes from. Out of a robot. Now, that's all I have to say about cars. The other thing is, let's talk about the story you tell yourself about the car in front of you. You tell yourself that rusted truck has a man from another country whose only purpose is picking avocados, and so you nail that thing and you him, or you tell yourself it's a rich prince who didn't work hard enough for his money like you did, and you nail it. You're telling yourself the wrong kind of story. You're telling yourself a cheap story that other people have told you before, and you're simply echoing it. And we have no respect for echoes that aren't electrical because they can't have any effect on the modern world outside of pregnancy. So you have this situation, you have this car. I want you to tell yourself a different story. I want you to imagine this form inside of there. Now this is Venus. This is the real Venus because inside of her is life. And I've got respect for life, I've got respect for Venus, and I've got respect for this symbol, which is peace. And in order to get here, we have to stop telling ourselves these unsimple, uncomplicated echo stories, these echo narratives. Invent a new story. Every time you see somebody The guy looks like the biggest jerk in the world, wearing all the leather and all the studs, and his hair's at 1,000 angles, and he has an expression that you don't understand, a skin color that you can't quite place, and you look at him and say, that guy's trouble, I don't like him. Just say, hey, he's on his way home from his grandma's house. And his grandma bought him that jacket because he said, I want to look like trouble. His whole life he said, I want to look like trouble, and his grandma kept putting him in blue shirts. And finally she said, honey, you look like trouble. You wear this jacket. Now that's a story you can tell yourself. It's sweet, it's fun. Instead of telling yourself a story that he just went to the mall and plunked down his capitalist gollywogs and got this jacket to look tough and intimidating. That doesn't have to be the story. Make up your own stories. They'll guide you. They can guide everybody to love, maybe. Anyhow, that's all there is about that. So, let's move over here. Over here we talked about cars. We talked about fruits. I just want to talk for 1 second about my history. This is how many days, this is how many years, more or less, mid-school. This is how long I had to intern at the hospital, how many years? Years being a collection of days, and each one of these branches off into how many days, how many hours, how many seconds. It's futile. Time, a big piece of time. Let's not get into time. Here's the situation. I was working at a hospital. I was a pediatrician, a doctor to the child, a children's doctor. This much you know. What you don't know is how that ended for me. I was looking after, I was doing kind of the tougher shit. I was in there looking after kids. And they wheeled this beautiful little boy into me. And he's all children, this kid. He is absolutely beautiful. Hair of golden straw, body of alabaster. And there's some kind of infection in his lungs. This kid's had pneumonia for I don't know how many days. And it's eating him up inside. It gets to the point where I have to take my trusty blade. Back then, I took whatever they had, unzipped that special plastic, pulled this tool out, and I actually cut this child open. I cut him open and I pulled it back, and we used the special $500 clamps, and I'm staring at these pearlescent lungs and this glistening snake of gut, and I got to fix this kid. I got to do whatever I can do. And there's a machine over here in the corner going beep, beep, beep. Tell me the difference between life and death, you useless machine. And I'm sitting here trying to keep that beep going. I'm just got to remove this horrible, terrible section of his lung. And when I'm doing this, all of a sudden these lungs just start deflating, and I hear the machine going beep, and it's going beep, and I'm squeezing the lungs. Come back to life. Come back to life. And I jump up on the table and I squeeze it. Come on. Come back to life. Come back to life. And the machine just keeps going beep. And I'm squeezing it. Come back. Come back. It's gone. And once beautiful, once loud, now gone. And I'm so full of anger and rage at this. Everybody else is standing around taking their gloves off, turning the radio to a different channel because rock and roll seemed inappropriate, and that's what was on. And I'm just thinking, no! No! God forsaken, no! And I pick up his beautiful little body and I throw it to the wall. All my might, and he crustles down onto the floor. And I just pull myself out of there. I say, forget it, I'm done. And I go home. And I'm thinking, what can I actually do to make a difference? Because the healthcare with the capitalism and the way they're wound around each other, how am I going to save them? How am I actually going to save these kids? These diseases could be cured, but there's no money in it. So I'm just stuck in the system. And that's what I remember. Hearing old fables from an old man back in the earliest days of my medical training about this thing called the Cave of Cures. And that's a whole other story. The Cave of Cures is going to change the world if anyone can ever get past those tricky Indians. I went down there. Now that's a special tribe because they live in dimension 2.5 or 3.5. It's not defined by solids, gases, and electricity. It's on a whole nother wavelength. And they ruined it. They didn't ruin it. I ruined it because I goofed up. That's it. That's it.